Could you go into, okay, when you go to the Atomic Hub and you want to create an NFT, you need to know what the collection is, what the schema is, what a template is, and what mint asset is. These things are very
Yes.
important. So can you go through with as simple words as possible each of these four different aspects?
Yeah. And also, let me just preface this by saying that ideally, you shouldn't have to know what these are, but right now you do. But we will put in the work and try to really abstract this away from most users so that they don't have to know.
So in the user phase, you will just go in and it will be very intuitive how you do this in the next iterations that come.
Exactly. But right now you need to know it, so I will gladly explain it. I think that makes sense. So the first part is the collection. And what a collection really just is, it groups together like assets that should belong together. It really isn't.
So that could be Counter-Strike Go. That could be a collection.
Yes, exactly. Counter-Strike Go or Garbage Pail Kids could be a collection. So you create this collection, and then the next thing is the schema. And on the technical side, schemas define the data structure. What this means is that in a schema, you define which attributes do I want my assets, my NFTs to have. So for example, for a Counter-Strike item, I wanted to have a name. I wanted to have an image. Counter-Strike skins also have, for example, a float value. So I want to have an attribute that is the float value of them.
And what is the float value?
It's like how worn out they are. So there could be factory new Counter-Strike skins, which then are more valuable, or there could be, for example, well-worn or battle-scarred CSGO skins that look a bit worse and are less valuable. So I want these Counter-Strike items to have these sort of values. I want them to have a name. I want them to have an image. I want them to have this float value. Maybe I want to have them a rarity as well. So that's what I define in the schema. In the schema, I do not yet define the actual asset. I don't explain what an NFT is, what the values of your NFT are. I only explain what values can the NFT have.
So no specifics, just the baseline.
Exactly. And then the schema belongs to the collection. And the next part is the asset itself. Just skipping over the template for now. And the asset belongs to the schema. And in the asset, you define what values you want to have. So in the schema, I defined what possible attributes are there. In the asset, I define, I want this asset to have this name and this image and this float value. That's what I do in the asset. And then on top of that, and this is optional, we have templates. And templates also live like below the schemas. So templates also belong to a schema. And in a template, you can sort of predefine some of the values. So for example, for Counter-Strike skins, you have a lot of AK-47 case-hardened skins. So you define name AK-47 case-hardened, and you define the image, but you do not yet define the float value because that is unique to every asset. So then you define this template, and when you then create an asset after that, you can use this template, which will automatically set the values that you defined in the template on your asset. So then you do not have to choose the name anymore. You do not have to choose the image anymore because the template already defines those. And you maybe only specify the float value as unique to the asset. And what those templates then really are used for is to group together these assets that are like somewhat the same, but not necessarily all the way the same. So all the assets in the template are AK-47 case hardened, but they don't all have the same float value, for example.
Yeah, and another neat feature in the template is that you can set a max cap on how many of these you can create.
Exactly. You can set a maximum supply within the template, and then you can only create so many assets using this template. So if you want to have a limited edition NFT, you first create a template, maybe set maximum supply of 10, and then everyone can see you can only ever mint 10 assets that use this template, so there's a provable scarcity.
Yeah, that is very neat. I used it for an elite support Wax Elite supporter badge, and the first one was sold today on the Wax blockchain when I backed it with 100 Wax. So that's another nice feature you can back an asset. And what does that mean?
Yes, backing an asset is another feature that Atomicassets has, and it's natively inside the Atomicassets standard. At least if your asset is burnable, but I'll get into that. You can back, for example, you have your NFT, and now you want to back it with 10 wax tokens. So what does this mean? You transfer 10 wax tokens to the asset standard, and then they become backed to this NFT or kind of embedded into this NFT. And the only way to get those 10 wax tokens back is by burning the NFT. And what this means is that there's a minimum value for the NFT, because you always know, like, even if nobody else wants this NFT anymore, it's the DApp that is using it has disappeared, nobody is interested in it anymore, I can still just burn it and receive those 10 wax tokens. So there is a minimum value that this NFT will always have. I think there will be a lot of interesting use cases, probably a lot of which we haven't even thought about at this moment. What some people are using it for is just backing their own NFTs, and then if they sell them, they're worth more, because users know, like, it's backed with 100 Rex tokens, so like I will always pay at least 100 Rex tokens for it, obviously.
Yeah,
that's what people are using it for right now, and I think there will be very interesting use cases for it in the future.
I think so as well. I think it's a very neat feature to have.
And this really is also something, like, everyone I explained it to, they always say it's super interesting. They don't quite know what to use it for yet, which is why I'm saying we probably don't know all the really cool use cases of it at this moment, but people will figure it out. People will come up with great ideas for it. And I think it's like a really powerful feature.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because from what I can see from the user interface is that you cannot only back it with Wax. You can back it with a lot of other things potentially in the future, right?
Yes, we will make sure not to add too many tokens there. We don't want every token to suddenly be backed with a spam token. We don't want that to happen. But if big applications, big dApps emerge that have their own tokens and that want to use it to back their own NFTs, then we can add support for that, and then NFTs will also be able to be backed not just with Wax, but also with Karma tokens, for example.
Yeah. Can all NFTs be traded?
No, not all of them. When you create a template, you also have two additional options, which is, do I want the assets of this template to be transferable? And do I want the assets of this template to be burnable? So what you can do is you first create a template, and you, for example, specify they should not be transferable. For example, that might be useful for, like, loyalty badges. You want to give the users that were on your platform for a year, you want to give them an NFT as a sort of award for that, but you don't want them to trade it away, because it's like they were there for 1 year, not someone else. So you don't want it to be transferable. You create a template first, choose that it's not transferable, and then when you mint an NFT with this template, it won't be transferable.
So you mint them to their account from the start, and then it's there.
Yeah, would be bad if you mint it to your own account, then you can't get it out of there again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very neat. So Atomichub, what kind of add-ons or additions to it will we see in the coming weeks?
The number one thing that we want to focus on is the NFT creator, making it simpler. Something else that we will do in the future is asset auctions, not just sales, but auctions as well. In fact, the Atomic Market smart contract already supports auctions. We just don't have an interface for that yet on the Atomichub. Possibly also selling or auctioning multiple NFTs in a single auction, in a single sale. Also already supported in the smart contract, but no interface for that yet. We have plans for a pack creator on top of the NFT creator. You could really see what this is with tops, with GPK. You could buy a pack and then open it, and you would get random cards out of it. We want to make this as like an addition on top of the NFT creator, so that you can also create packs. But for that to make sense, first the NFT creator needs to be really like intuitive. If we throw another feature on top of there, people will get too confused.
Yeah,
we can't do that right
keep
now.
it simple.
Yeah, that's like we really need to make sure that users actually understand what they're doing there and that they don't have to first read a 15-page guide on it. It should really be like a guided process. You just go on the website and it tells you what you need to do. It tells you the decisions that you need to make, and then you don't have to think about all these technical things.
Are you sure you want to continue with this empty field?
For example.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very nice.
That's really, we're at a good starting point right now, but it really only is the starting point. There are so many improvements that we can still make.